Hey everyone, there's no episode of the Debrief. I've got to get a new machine, but here's my 10 more questions with Adam Zwar. It's a great podcast. Get into it, and I will return with some more Debrief. I got to get a new machine. The machine broke. It's anyway. Look, sorry about that.
Welcome to a special episode of 10 Questions called Another 10 Questions, which gives me a chance to have guests return to the podcast. And our first Another 10 Questions guest is Dave O'Neill, who was the first guest on the show back in 2015, 64 episodes ago. Now back to my old mate Dave O'Neill. He's a veteran comic, radio host, screenwriter, and definitely the person who gets name-checked the most on this podcast. You'll know him from everything, and by everything I mean Spicks and Specks, Agony, Randling, The Nugget, and more recently cameos in Utopia and Fisk. He was also the head writer on Totally Full Frontal, and with the screenwriter Mark O'Toole, who's referred to on this interview as the Tool Man, he wrote the feature films Take Away and You and Your Stupid Mate. I'll put the new questions up on Twitter, but I start another 10 questions with, how do you think your fellow workers would describe you?
Easygoing is often the most common thing said about me. Easy to work with. And, you know, my wife has said, and I've had this said to me before, in horse racing, there is a thing, I'm not into horse racing, but I've heard this. If a thoroughbred is a bit testy, they put a donkey in with the thoroughbred to calm it down. And my wife said, you're the donkey. So, I mean, I've worked with a lot of thoroughbreds. When you think back, I worked with Eric Banner for a long time, on Full Frontal, writing sketches in his sketch show. I also worked with Sean McAuliffe. Then I moved to working with Hughesy and Kate. I was definitely the donkey in that team, and also I've still remained to this day, up until only 6 months ago, working with Hughesy on his TV show. I'm definitely the donkey. And then of course now with Glenn Robbins, I've done a lot. You know, I started working with him on Full Frontal and like the Jamone show, and of course Kitty too, doing a podcast with Kitty Flanagan. So I'm the donkey. Yeah. So, you know, it's not such a bad thing, is it, to be the donkey?
And it's also kind of, I mean, I don't know a heck of a lot about the internal machinations of the donkey's brain, but it shows a very even-headed disposition to be able to do that, because working with stars, and I've done my share of writing for stars, it's part being a psychologist. And with Hughesy, for example, I mean, sure, he used to be my support act for a very short time. And then I became his support act. But you've got to realize he's the star. And so he's the one. Yeah, it's his show. The show's named after him. So it's not about you trying to get your head on screen and trying to put your shit ideas forward. You know, which is we've talked about that before, about how people are trying to get their the people that keep pushing their own barrow. You can't be that person in that kind of role. You just got to be more a support role. So easygoing is often said about me, and I am fairly easygoing, to be honest. I mean, I am pretty easygoing. Do you have any rage within sometimes, or do you just let it go?
Yeah. But I think if you have rage within when you're working with someone, you just try and not work with them again. So you just go, well, especially in the stand-up world where you go and do gigs. The good thing about doing stand-up is that it's short-term engagement with the audience and with the other comedians. You may never see some of these comedians. It's like doing a film. It's so intense for 3 months or whatever. You know, I mean, I did The Nugget 20 years ago. I haven't seen some of those people for 20 years. But it seems so intense at that point, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So
for sure, yeah. And then you're out. You just, as you will say, mate, you just get in the car with your packet of chips.
Drive. And that's it. And drive home and go, well, what was that all about? I'm never seeing them again, ever.
Question 2. What was the most unhelpful feedback you've received?
Yeah, I think in stand-up, I remember very early on, another comic who's no longer doing comedy said, don't hang shit on yourself. That's not good. Don't mock yourself. But I've always mocked myself for being overweight. I say I look like Katie Lang. And all these are truths because you say it before the audience are probably thinking it anyway. And so if you're really fat, of course you're going to say a fat joke. And this guy's like, no, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, no. I love the comics that, hang shit on themselves. I love that kind of, I don't like the ones that are posturing and sort of lecturing the audience. I don't like that. And, some people do it very well, But I think if you bring it back to yourself, I think it's fine to mock yourself. Why not?
When I used to read Clive James when I was a kid and his
yeah.
self-deprecate, that was the first time I heard the word self-deprecation.
Yes, he was the king. He was so good at it, Clive James. He was, but Letterman was the same. A lot of those guys are very funny. The ones that do it.
Yeah.
And you watch. I mean, the last comic I saw live was Denise Scott, and she makes fun of herself, which is funny. It's just funny,
It also almost says, just on a kind of the theory of it is like, I think you implied this before. It's like, I'll make the jokes about myself.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, you can do it if you want, but I'll do it before you.
And better.
Yeah, better, hopefully.
Question 3. What is the failure you most cherish?
Oh, God, there's been so many, Adam. Was it Randling that I won with Anthony Morgan? But that wasn't my failure. I was just on that show. I'd say Takeaway, the movie. So I wrote that with Mark O'Toole, the Tool Man. And it was so exciting getting a movie up, because we were working on Full Frontal at the time as writers, and we took the day off the afternoon to go and see The Castle at the cinema in the city with some of the other writers, and we just loved The Castle because, of course, it reminded us of our childhoods. And also great performances, a great script, etc. One of the greats. And we just thought we could write a movie like that. You know what I mean? Because up until that point, you'd watch movies and go, well, could I? You watch the Blues Brothers and go, that's so far removed from my world. I love it, but or Gregory's Girl was another, the Scottish movie was another one of my favorites. But when you saw a movie set in your own town about people that like Eric was in it and stuff like that. And so we wrote Takeaway, which was about, for people that missed it. And Adam, there were a lot who missed it, but it's on Stan at the moment. You can get your eyes on it. It's about 2 fish and chip shops next door to each other. One's run by Vince Colosimo, one's run by Stephen Curry, and they hate each other. But then the twist, a Burgies franchise, which is like McDonald's or Hungry Jack's, opens up next door. So the 2 guys have to unite to fight the evil empire. And writing it, getting it up, we didn't get up. Mark Racy, the director, producer guy, got it up. And it was so much fun just, seeing it all come together and people get excited about it. And we filmed it. And it was so exciting. They were writing articles about it in the paper. And then it came out and didn't do very well. So,
well, mate, who knows why these things happen? There are many theories on it, but
I think I know.
I read that.
You read the script.
Yeah, right.
You read the script.
It was a great script. So I auditioned for it. Didn't get the role, but whatever the role was,
the tow truck driver. I think you were the tow truck driver.
Yeah. And but it was a great script. It really was.
You know what? I think Jim Shembry, and I never quote a critic, but he nailed it when he said, "This is one of the funniest Australian movies in the last 10 years." Except for the ending. So the ending is what stuffed it up. So for people that don't know, and there's going to be a lot of people, the ending, the tow truck driver, which could have been you, Adam, he breaks into the Burgies at night and he hooks up his tow truck and he tows the shop away down the street.
Fantastic.
But it wasn't fantastic. And I remember when Eric Banner
not executed. Well,
no, because it just was. It's a ridiculous thing. That we thought, like in cartoony style, it'll be really quick and funny and hilarious. But the only way they could do it was like in slow motion. And so, and I remember Eric Banner read the script and he said, "You can't do that. How are you going to do that?" I'm like, don't worry about it, mate. But he was right. You couldn't do it. And so the ending just slowed the whole thing down. And I remember I was doing radio at that stage on Nova, and all the people at Village were really excited about it until they started, and she was taking Vince and Stephen around for interviews. And I said to her outside the studio, "How's it going? How's the film being received?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, great. Yeah, people don't really like the ending." And that's when I went, "Oh, okay, we're in trouble here."
You get that hype from the people, from the network, or there could be... distributors or whatever before the film or the TV show comes out, and you're fucking loved and it's amazing and you literally buy into it, and then the day after they do not want to take your call.
I remember saying to Stephen Curry, because of course he was in the Nugget and Takeaway, and the Nugget was a bit more successful than Takeaway. It wasn't a huge hit, but it seemed to linger longer. And certainly people will talk to me about the Nugget still to this day. When you go to the country and stuff, people mention it. And he said, I've just learned to enjoy the process of filming and stuff. And the end result is, he goes, it's not up to me. That's not up to me. You put it out there and you see how it goes. And that, you know what? That's a good attitude. Enjoy the process.
I mean, if it's a struggle to get the show made, then all I've got to hang my hat on is the reception. So,
well, this is the thing. As someone said, you spend 5 years getting a movie off, they give it a week in the cinema.
That's right. That's right.
It's gone. It's gone.
I do like the Toolman's quote. It's like one person to write a script. It takes one person to write a script and 100 people to fuck it up.
No, you write a script and they employ 150 people to fuck it up. Which is so, I mean, you can't blame people, but when you tell people you're doing a comedy, everyone from the makeup person to the wardrobe guy to the guy driving the unit truck puts their jokes in.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a very strong person at the helm, and actors are terrible for this too, some of them, not all of them, they will turn up with their funny walk. Yeah. Or they'll turn up with a funny wig on and they'll go, nah, but we're doing a comedy. And you're like, but the secret to comedy, if you look at like The Castle, for example, they're playing it for real. They're not playing it like wacky.
100%. I mean, if an actor comes in with a funny walk or a funny accent and then you have to tell them that they can't do it, that is like taking chocolate away from a 3-year-old. That is, it's swords at dawn. Yeah.
I interviewed the Farrelly brothers, Peter Farrelly, Dumb and Dumber, one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
And he said to me, because we did another movie, we did You and Your Stupid Mate, right?
That's right.
Me and Toolman, which was possibly even more poorly received than but I turn up on the first day of screening and there's like a little scooter on the set. And I said to the props guy, you've left your scooter on the set. And he goes, oh, no, that's the actors. They're using a scooter to get around on. They worked it up in rehearsals.
Oh, God.
And I said to the director, we didn't write a scooter in the script. Why have they got a scooter? The whole crux of the script is they hang around with a Somali taxi driver because he drives them around everywhere because they don't have any transport. Now they've got a scooter. It kind of negates. And I told Peter Farrelly the story off air and he goes, mate, that's why I direct, because I don't want a scooter.
That's right.
He goes, because of course, those guys wrote, and it was the same with John Hughes. They both wrote movies that someone else directed, but only one or two, and they saw them being fucked up, and so they began directing. And Peter Farrelly said, I never wanted to direct. I just didn't want people to ruin my script.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, if you either get a director that you're totally simpatico with, or you direct yourself.
It's hard, but it's hard, as we know.
If you could go back 5 years, Dave, what advice would you give yourself?
I would. I've just been listening to your episode with David Thornton. We talked about it, which is very
good friend of yours.
Great guy, Thorno. Love Thorno. Fellow Cats supporter. He's from the G-Town. My wife's from the G-Town, Geelong, G-Banger, G-Troit. I would tell myself to spend more time with my dad because he passed away.
Yeah.
So I'm croaking up now, but it's. I actually spent a lot of time with him anyway. But I still had. I was very lucky because I'm 56. And he was 85 when he died. It was only in July. And I still had things I wanted to ask him and talk about.
Yeah.
But, these things happen. So I've just been to see Mum. So Mum's in a nursing home now. So my whole life has just turned upside down. Because they were still in the family home where I grew up. Like 6 months ago, they were still in the house where I grew up. So it was a great stability for me. So I would encourage anyone with elderly parents to spend time with them because they're not going to be around for long. And before that, my mother-in-law died, who used to live with us a bit, Betty, who I was close to too. My biggest fan, Adam. She would come to my gigs and laugh her head off. So, I would say that. I would just say that because, it's if you've got elderly parents, you're very lucky. Like after hearing Thorno talk, his dad died when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
That's pretty full on.
Yeah, so your dad, he would go to your gigs as well. I'd seen there.
Yeah.
So he was a teacher at TAFE.
Yes. Yeah.
What did he teach?
Fitting and turning. He was in the Air Force. He was in Vietnam, Kev.
Wow.
Which he liked. He liked Vietnam.
What was his rank?
Planes. No, it's just a warrant officer.
Oh, warrant officer. Yeah.
So it's the highest rank you can go before you become an officer.
But
true to Kev's style, he never wanted to be an officer or a boss. So even at the TAFE course, he got asked, "Do you want to be the boss of the?" He's like, "No, I want to be the boss," which is good advice.
That's great.
Don't be the boss.
Smart, isn't it?
Yeah. So he was it was very, very how would you describe? But yeah, he was, I mean, obviously got my sense of humor from him and mum, but he was very supportive and would come to gigs, and I would make jokes about him.
He laughed. I remember him laughing.
Yeah, he laughed, and I'd take Dad's here tonight, and he'd stand up. He loved the attention. Don't worry about that. He loved it.
And did he give you feedback?
No, not really. No. I just said to him, like, I would make jokes about him being in the war, and like, he also had a collection of Nazi war medals, which it was a great. Wow. I find that hilarious that he's got. Well, I mean, to be fair, he's got a lot of the good guys too. He just doesn't have Nazi medals. And we would joke about it. Me and my brothers, we found it hilarious that he had these. And even now, cleaning up the house, because we've got to go through that process where we clean up the house. Oh. He's got a drawer, and it's got Scouts and Nazis. So even I would make jokes about that, and I'd say to Dad, I'm just joking, Dad. He goes, yeah, no, I don't care. So,
wow, it does sound like you're similar.
Yeah, he was easygoing, Kev, and he would crack it very occasionally, like yell at you, but not often at all. No.
Yeah, I remember you telling me a story. He give you the strap, didn't he? Yeah,
but only very rarely, and only when we just.
Yeah. Well, how many kids in the family?
There's 4 boys. There's 4 boys.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, of course.
So Dad was just, that's why he loved going to the footy and didn't take any of us on the Saturday afternoon, because I think it was a bit of a release for him.
Yeah.
Go and yell and scream and try and start fights with Hawthorn supporters, and then come home. So yeah, I would definitely say to anyone, my younger 5 years ago, try and spend more time with Dad. Because it was quite sudden. He had a heart attack, and then was in the hospital for about 5 weeks, and just died. And
And it doesn't hit you until a little bit later that you wish you had those conversations. Like my dad is alive, but he doesn't remember much now. So there are certain things he remembers, but he doesn't remember. If I want to fact check something that happened in my childhood, he can't really do that. So Mum was the keeper of all that information, and she died when I was in my 20s.
That's young too. I think that's really young. But anyway,
it's just it's kind of a shock, and it never quite leaves you.
No, what do the Greeks say? You don't get over it, you get used to it.
They nailed it. Question 5 is, what about your job keeps you awake at night?
Yeah, you know what? I sleep pretty well. I more stay awake thinking, worrying about the kids sometimes. My son's doing year 12. It's been because I'm in Melbourne, it's been a really shit couple of years for the students. Yes. I've been tutoring him. I just dropped him off. He's having his first exam today, and I've been full on tutoring for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it's like, I did teaching but I did primary school. I didn't even teach. You know what I mean? I did teaching when I was 17 to the age of 20 and finished my course and said, I'm never doing that ever. But I don't mind teaching. And so I've been sitting down with him going over, I was telling you off air, The Crucible, The Dressmaker, and The Lieutenant, which is a really good book, I've got to say, by Kate Greenville. The Lieutenant, which is a colonial setting, the woman who wrote Secret River. And just going over the themes and that. And so I worry about that sometimes, about, what's he going to do? Will he pass? I mean, people don't really fail year 12 these days. Not like in our day. And I was telling him at my high school, a third of people failed. Yeah. It was just guaranteed.
Hang on, no one fails now. So
no, you got it. The teacher, look, we saw the maths teacher and we said, look, is there a chance that he could fail? She says, no, if he turns up to school and does the exams, it's just that the way it's done, the marks will just be really low, and you may not get into uni. What I mean? So nothing's changed in that way. If you want to get into medicine, you still need a high score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was saying to him the other day, if you want to do arts, you'll probably be right. Like his mother did and his father did. So, I, in terms of gigs and my work, I don't really worry about it. I mean, occasionally, because I've been doing a lot of Zoom gigs, the Zoom boom, because I'm based in Melbourne, where we've had lockdown for 2 years, and what happened was that all the live gigs stopped, but these Zoom gigs started happening, and I kind of didn't want to do them initially, but then I started, and now I've done over 100 of them.
Wow.
And so sometimes with them, like any kind of live gig, you do occasionally have one that's a bit difficult or a bit weird, and you worry about offending someone. I suppose.
Yeah.
So, for example, in my great Zoom act, I have a bat puppet that I bring out, which the kids had a bat puppet, and because I'm just sitting at home in lockdown, although it might be funny to bring out, when I do a group of real estate agents, I bring out I go, oh, look, I've got a bat puppet. And, it's Woo. And we called him Wooey because he was from Wuhan. and he was seeking refuge with me. He was like Julian Assange because he's been accused of spreading this virus. And look, for 99% of the people piss themselves. And, I would take the bat on radio. And when I do Mick Malloy show, he's like, is Wooey the bat there? And Wooey comes on and goes, hey, everybody, it's Wooey the bat. But then me and Kitty Flanagan were doing a Zoom gig together for a big electricity company. And she goes, where's the bat puppet? I bring the bat up and I'm going, hey, everyone, it's Wooey the bat. And, he's got his standard jokes. Stay positive. And then with Zoom gigs, often you can't hear people laughing, but they put the feedback up on the chat function.
Yes.
And someone will put up a comment, I can't help feeling. And Kitty Flanagan's going, are you running a wet market there, Dave? And I'm like, yeah, I've got the first Australian wet market, drop by and all this shit. And this comment just comes up. Most people are loving it, wooey, hilarious. This comment comes up. Can't help feeling that Australian Chinese employees are feeling a little bit uncomfortable at this moment with this bat puppet and all these mentions of wet markets.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
And so I didn't read that one out and I just let it go. But then later at night, I'm just lying in bed going, is Wooey the bat offensive?
Yeah,
is my bat paper offensive? And then my wife's going, I think he is a bit racist, Wooey. So I had to change Wooey's narrative. He's actually from Wollongong, which is we say now he's from Wollongong. It's near Ringwood.
That's
in
so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I hadn't thought of Wooey being offensive. And then the other day, doing another Zoom gig, and you have the briefing with the woman from HR, which is always a lot of fun.
I bet.
When they bring on the HR, they're called people and culture these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's gone from personnel to HR to people and culture,
Uh-huh.
or just people. Adam, I'm the head of the people department.
Yeah, right.
Whereas we know they just sack people, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, and I said, so this is a gig for a big government body that were building railway lines or something. I haven't done it yet, actually. It's coming up, and the woman said, and look, Dave's here on the line. Any notes for Dave on what not to do? And the woman said, look, just please don't dress up as a bat and do a Chinese accent. I said, well, I would. No, but that happened at a Price Waterhouse gig. One of the people in the staff there, it was in the paper, dressed up as a bat, and so did his mate, and they did a double act doing Chinese accents.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord. Now that is racist.
Yeah. That's cutting price.
Racist. Yeah. So it is funny if you offend occasionally, even with Zoom gigs, and you get a complaint. You do lay up at night thinking about it. Oh, what's that offensive?
Yeah. Oh, look. But by the way, mate, you're talking to a guy who gets off the phone after just having a one-on-one chat and worries that he's offended someone. So,
I don't do that. I never do that.
No,
I need it in writing, Adam.
That's right. Yeah. You need it in the messages. Yeah. Question 6: what's an obstacle that you've had to overcome?
Being a white man in show business, it's been hard. I can't really think of an obstacle. I'd say, I always bang on about class. I say coming from a working class background, but even then, I'm firmly middle class now. And even then, most of the people I work with are from similar backgrounds. So you can't say, oh, I was intimidated going into the writer's room on like the McAuliffe program, which I worked on. But they were all from very similar backgrounds. So it wasn't like you're walking in and they're all wearing top hats going, oh, I have not seen you since double grammar, young boy. And you're sitting there in your flannel going, well, I don't really fit in with these people. And that never happened. And like, I work with Glenn Robbins, as I've said, he looks like he lives on a boat.
Yes.
But he's from a blue collar background, which is very, his brother works as a washing machine repairman. So it's everyone I've ever met, mainly in comedy, is from a similar background. So I've never had any obstacles. Let's be honest. I've been pretty lucky.
It is true because I'm one of the only kind of private school guys that,
there's a lot, but there's a lot of private school boys though. Look at you've got all the Working Dog, they're all Xavier.
Yeah.
I'm an expert on what schools people went to.
Yes.
Charlie Pickering. There's a lot of people from Catholic schools, but a lot of them are low rent Catholic schools, So
yep.
Hamish and Andy, private school boys, but they're off. I mean, you get on fine with all those people. I have no problem.
I
think in comedy, the good thing about comedy is a level playing field. So say if me or you went into law, because you went to Brisbane Grammar, and if we were in Brisbane, they would say, well, Adam's part of the alumni. He should be a partner before that guy from Beanley Tech or whatever, if we're in Queensland. but in the comedy world, it's a level playing field because if you can do it, you can do it. And who gives a crap where you come from? It's like being a chef. If you can cook a cake, you can cook a cake. It doesn't matter where you come from. That's the thing about comedy. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is. If you can make people laugh,
that's exactly right. Although there's a kind of a strange thing where I'm noticing statistically that there are a lot of AFL players coming from private schools these days.
Yes, I've read that article, and that is great. And that is, I'm a recent AFL convert at 56.
Never too late.
Being a Geelong's fan. Never too late. And I'm no expert, but I read the same article. It's because they offer scholarships to the good players.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They offer scholarships to, the Aboriginal players. Like, say, you look at some of the Aboriginal players and you look at their school and they're like, they went to Melbourne Grammar. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Well, of course, they got a scholarship. You know what I mean? Scotch College has a program.
Scotch.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, these guys aren't living in Malvern.
No. They're coming down from top end. Yeah, exactly. Question 7 is, which word or phrase do you most overuse?
Apparently, let's go is the one that my wife and kids hate. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Whereas you're meant to say, are you ready? I also, so I'm impatient when it comes to getting out of the house. I say that's life a bit. I've turned into Darren Hinch. Remember, he used to have that as his, that's life.
Yeah, that's life. I'm Darren Hinch.
Yeah, so I do. And also time will tell is a big one I say all the time. Because, when we talk about whether it's a football team or a TV show and, will this be successful? I'm working on this thing. Will it happen? Time will tell. Because that's true. Time will tell.
Time will tell. And that's life. That never truer statements to come out of someone's mouth.
They're not very inspiring, are they? But
well, it means you've been around the block a few times. You go, that's life.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah, that kind of stuff. They're more the sayings I bandy around the house.
What about on stage? Do you say anything? Is there a kind of a
wish
refrain?
I did.
Yeah,
I wish I did because people like Husey have catchphrases and they're great to have while you're trying to think of what your next bit is.
Yeah.
So when he says you're a really great crowd, that's him trying to think of what's coming up next. So I've got to come up with some instead of so what else is going on? What else is funny? That's awkward. You got to come up with some, but I've got to come up with some. I'm sure I do say them, but I can't remember. I often have to be on stage just when I start saying them.
Someone once told me I say exactly a lot.
Oh,
exactly.
That's a good story. That's all right though.
You say exactly a lot. Question 8: how do you remain calm under pressure, Dave?
I don't panic very much, and I do think it's just the old-fashioned breathe and think, will this matter in 5 years? Will it matter in 6 months? When I feel pressure, technology, because I've been in lockdown and we've been doing these Zoom gigs. For example, if I got on this link with you and it didn't work, then I would feel pressure. And I've been in situations where people have been ringing me going, why aren't you on the link? And I'm sure people in other jobs feel this pressure too. I remember we had to do this Zoom gig, me, Glenn Robinson, Des Dell, and the great man Des for a golf club. And the guy's like, oh, can you run the Zoom thing? I can only get 3 people on my Zoom. I'm like, well, what's going on there for a start? I said, yeah, don't worry, I'll set it up. And so I had to sign up to Zoom. I had to ring this guy, Milan, who was a Zoom expert. I'm getting a tutor. I watched a YouTube video. But even on the day of the gig, I woke up early just sweating, thinking, oh, I've got to run the technology tonight.
Oh, wow.
Because even then, because I had to have 3 people on the screen at the same time. Now, for anyone who knows technology, this is a very easy thing to do. But for 3 old guys, so we get on at like, say, 20 to 8. The gig's at 8. I'm sitting there sweating. Glenn comes up, but I can't hear him. I'm ringing him on the mobile. Mate, you've got to hit this button. And then I'm ringing Milan, this expert, and he's like, look, you go to this thing, hit this thing, blah, blah, blah. Des is on there. It's not working. Eventually we get it working. But I didn't realize everyone was watching because they could just get on early and, and we were all just.
God.
So people start putting up comments. I love the pre-show. Old guys doing tech. This is hilarious. So I that's the only time ever in my comedy career do I feel pressure when it's something technical or something like that. I feel stressed about it for some reason.
So do I, and it's the podcast has really brought it out of me, and I'm actually a little bit better than I was. But I remember once interviewing Kevin Rudd, and there'd been difficulties for a podcast, and for some reason that freaked me out. It's like because prime ministers or former prime ministers are like parents, It's like,
but also you can't ring if this didn't work out. You could ring me back and say it didn't work. Can we do it again? I go sure.
Yeah,
you can't do that to Kevin Rudd.
No. It's like it takes so long to set those interviews up.
Exactly.
Dave, career high and career low.
Oh boy. Well, career high. Well, let's go career low first.
Yes.
Probably breaking my leg in a BMX stunt while I was on Vega FM. So as someone pointed out, I jumped Dicko on a BMX outside the front of Vega and Nova. And Vega is a radio station that was set up by Nova, which is now Smooth FM for people wondering. And it wasn't a successful radio station, and they just turned into a music format. And in the dying days, I broke my leg.
You broke your leg for entertainment.
And as someone said, you're on radio, people couldn't even see you. So it wasn't as if they were crossing to me live for a live stunt. It could have just been sound effects. Who gave a shit? But anyway, I broke my leg and ended up in hospital for a few weeks, and then ended up in home as an invalid with a broken leg. So that, and then got sacked pretty soon after that. So
how did you get sacked? What happens when you get sacked from radio?
Oh, it's hilarious. So I returned. I was still on crutches. I returned to the studio. By that stage, Chrissy had gone. They got rid of her, the best person on the show.
Chrissy Swan.
It was just me and Dicko. And we finished the show, and the manager goes, "Oh, can I talk to you for a minute?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I go in the office, and she's crying. I'm like, "Oh my God, someone's died." Like, what are you going to tell me? Is everything all right at home? She's like, "Oh no, we're finishing up your show. You just had your last show on air." I'm like, "Oh," and this was in July or something like that. I said, "Do I still get paid at the end of the year?" She goes, "Oh yeah." I go, "Oh great, all right." See you later.
And you got your crutches and you hobbled out.
Yeah, I got to hobble out. I had one crutch, I think. I hobble out my crutch. So that's what happens in radio. They make the mistake sometimes of saying to people, "You've got 2 weeks left on air," and then they just get on a really angry and bitter, and people are ringing up, "Why are you getting sacked?" Blah. You're better off it's better just to cut and run. I think, but it does confuse people. People go, "What happened? You were on radio one day, you weren't." So that's what happened. So that was definitely a low time. Just physically being sick is not good.
No. So did that break hurt?
Not at the time.
No,
but
okay.
When I got to hospital,
it started hurting.
Yeah.
So you were recovering from a broken leg and you got sacked. Well, that's a good career low.
That's a low.
Career high?
Oh, I don't know. I saw Mum today in the nursing home, and she was talking about Spicks and Specs. So I suppose Spicks and Specs. Because I was on it 62 times, and it was so great when they bought. I mean, the great thing about Spicks and Specs, they repeat it every night.
Yeah.
So Monday to Friday, ABC2, and it still rates quite well, and it's good for me because you go and do like country gigs. Anyone over 50, they all love Spicks and Specs, and it still stands up to this day. And it was great they brought it back, and we filmed during the height of lockdown. And it was great just to go and do some comedy during lockdown, even though you had to get a permit and go through a police check on the way home, which was hilarious. I got pulled over and stuff. But it was just good fun. And, they're good. As you know, I love music.
Yes.
So,
yeah, it would be perfect for you.
Oh, I got to meet some of my heroes, like Peter Garrett, Steve Kilby from the Church.
Oh,
Jarvis. God. I did a show with Jarvis Cocker from Pulp.
Wow.
I love Pulp, the British.
Yeah.
And so it was great. And I was so excited when they brought it back, but also more excited that they included me. So because the thing is, when they bring some of these shows back, they just get rid of a few of the older people. They just do a bit of we'll get rid of that. But it was good. They had a bit of a mix on there, and it was just it's been a good fun show to do. That's for sure. And it plays right to my strengths, music and comedy.
That's right. It's interesting, isn't it? How you know your strengths after a while. It's like I watch a lot of AFL football, but I could never talk about it. That's
interesting.
But never talk about it professionally. You know what I mean? I can talk about it with you, but cricket I can talk about professionally. It's just a slight difference. It's just a very fine line between. Okay, you're a fan to being someone who can. I'm not saying I'm Gideon Haigh, but I can actually talk to Gideon Haigh. I could ask him intelligent questions.
Yeah, you're on the same level as him. Where if I talk to him about cricket, it'd be like a year 8 person talking to a professor.
I'm not at his level. I'm just. But
you're doing honors. You're doing honors.
Doing honors. Yeah. Dave, do you have a motto? Final question. Do you have a motto?
Do I have a motto? Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I haven't thought about this at all. What is my motto? I think maybe it is what it is. Look, it is what it is. You just got to deal with it. I think you just got to deal with it.
That's right. You do say it is what it is. You just got to deal with it. Those two things have got to be connected.
Yeah. It is what it is. You just got to deal with
it. Well, mate, you're doing a great job of dealing with it. Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much for tuning into 10 Questions. We'd also like to thank all the guests that appear on the show. And if you have a minute, please subscribe via iTunes or your podcast app and leave us a rating. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me on Twitter at Adam Zwar. So until next time, thanks for joining us.